Hi guys, welcome back to round 5 of my Maia chess open recaps. I actually want to show you this today, which I haven't shown you so far. It's my player badge. Everyone at this tournament has a player badge. This is quite uncommon. The last time I had one I think was at the Olympiad, but it's really nice. I love to have keepsakes like this from tournaments. It has my flag and everything. This is round 5. As you can see, maybe it was not a super long game. We reached move 22 and then there was a decisive result. So I was playing Gianluca from Italy, and Gianluca was older than my first 3 opponents combined. It's kind of nice to play an adult because after 3 13-year-olds, I was feeling quite ancient. And then yes, round 4 I did play an adult, but it's weird being 26 and feeling old. Gianluca, I saw, had a beautiful, beautiful Lichess account with thousands of games. And so I used his Lichess account to prepare, like any normal chess player does. And I saw that in these thousands and thousands of games, he played e4. So I prepared for e4. And do you guys remember, a little bit earlier in this tournament, I had prepared for this opening. This is the King's Indian attack. So maybe you don't remember, but I prepped this and my opponent didn't play it. He played normal classical French. And so I already had prep, so I just reused the same prep. And did Gianluca from Italy play the King's Indian attack? No, he didn't. Of course he didn't. Like, why would he play that? Even though he's played it like hundreds and hundreds of times, why would he play that? He didn't. And in fact, Gianluca from Italy did not even play e4. He played d4. As soon as I saw d4, I knew what was coming. And I was not happy because I had seen that he had played this one time in 2009, d4 in classical chess, and then bishop g5. So I played e5 and bishop g5. And this, after knight f6, is the Trompowsky. And the Trompowsky is quite uncommon at my level, at the intermediate level. So I know nothing about it, of course. I know that they want to trade on f6 and double my pawns. And in post-game analysis, Gianluca very kindly told me the aim of the game is to weaken my light squares or something like this. Knowing that he wants me to play knight f6, I was like, I'm not playing knight f6, as if. And actually my coach had prepared me for something with knight to c6, but I didn't know this because he had mentioned it once in passing weeks ago and I completely forgot. But I did remember that he had said something about f6. So, of course, I played f6. So 2 f6 is probably not recommended in most chess openings, but here it's actually okay, and the engine is telling me it's a book move, so can't be that bad. And here my opponent also spent some time. He spent like, I don't know, 10-15 minutes, and then he played, drum roll, bishop back to c1. So he played bishop c1 because we are setting up the board for the next game. He doesn't want to play the Trompowsky anymore. He realized it sucks, and he decided he wanted to play the King's Indian attack. Except unfortunately, I already have a pawn on d5 and f6, so it's too late. And now I'm a tempo up, right? Because he wasted time moving the bishop, and now he has moved the bishop back to the starting square, so I am ahead in development. I play bishop f5 because the bishop likes to be developed, and it will cover the light squares if there is ever anything scary on them. Knight c6 was better, but I play it on the next move anyway, so no harm done. And in post-game analysis, my dear friend Gianluca said, okay, but what would you have done if I played c4? And all I have to say is, you didn't play c4. So what happens if you play c4? I don't know, you have to just play it. You played c3. If you want to find out what happens if you play c4, you play it in the game. You don't ask me in post-game analysis. So c3 and queen d6. I was going to play queen d7, but then after queen d7, I thought maybe bishop b5, queen a4, and if I tried to long castle, maybe bishop takes knight and a7 hangs. I don't know if you guys can visualize that. I would put it on the board for you, except my laptop sucks. And every time I try to do variations, it lags out. So this is going to be a test of your blindfold analysis. I expect you to be able to see 2 moves ahead. So yes, queen d7 best move, but queen d6 I thought was also fine. But in the end, my dark squared bishop was quite bad. I think it did belong on d6 instead of the queen, but whatever. I didn't really know that at the time because I have never played this opening in my life. Knight to e2 and long castles. And so now I have 3 pieces developed, my king safely castled, and I am ready to strike in the center. White has 1 horse that is not properly developed. So of course it should be, I don't know, like -1 in my favor, -1.5. Of course it isn't. Of course it's 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 equal for no apparent reason, even though I'm ahead in development. And It's times like this where I hate chess because it feels like I'm doing everything right and still not getting anything out of it. b4, because my opponent hates development and he wants to attack me on the king side. And we actually talked quite a lot about this in post-game because he was saying something to me about weaknesses on light squares, and I don't really know what relevance that had to this, but he was saying that, and I was saying that I was not scared at all of his attack. And okay, b4 is the best move here, which I find completely insane, but b4 best, I'm not afraid. I think if you guys have watched the round 4 recap, you will see why. It's because I dealt with a much scarier kingside attack than this for the whole game in round 4. If you have not watched it, why are you here? You should be watching that. Should not be watching round 5 before round 4. Please show a little bit of respect. This is not a scary attack to me because I'm desensitized from the Black Lion Philidor. And so I hit back in the center with e5 because what are you told when you're learning chess? You're told that if somebody attacks on the flank, you should attack in the center. This is a principled way to play chess and is the best move. I had briefly considered king to b8, but did not deem it necessary. And b5. And whenever I'm playing a blitz game and we have some kind of like opposite side castling pawn storm situation where they end up pushing my knight away with like a b5, b4 push or whatever it is, wherever my knight is, usually I bring the knight out to a5, and then, I don't know, play something terrible like b6. Usually Stockfish mocks me. I mean b6 after like queen here or whatever, attacking it. Here I think maybe there's something like this or whatever. Yeah, usually Stockfish laughs in my face, mocks me, and tells me I should have played knight back. And so in this case, I played knight back, knight b8, and it's not good. So all of those times analyzing games with game review for it to tell me that I should have played knight back, and the one time I get it in a real important game, knight back is the bad move. This is exactly what will happen to me. When I went to speak to my stream afterwards, they were like, yeah, after knight b8, we decided he was better in this position. I mean, what do you want me to do? Okay, I've castled, I've developed my pieces, I'm trying to control the center, and I'm trying to do what I've learned from previous game analysis, but okay. I think the point is after knight a5, we can just put the knight on c4, but I was afraid of knight a, well, I was not afraid, but knight a5, I figured maybe queen a4, and I can't really play, I can't play knight to c4 because then a7 hangs. Now it wants queen b6, okay, and then maybe I can play knight to c4, but whatever. And he does not play queen a4 anyway. I figured if he did, maybe, I don't know, maybe a6 was possible and then bringing the knight back or taking with the queen and trading the queens. I wasn't sure. He played a4 because I think maybe he was afraid that if he developed a piece, it would be captured. Maybe that's why he's only pushing his pawns. I guess maybe he just figured like you should develop every pawn first before you develop any pieces. It's a new strategy. I'm not really aware of it. Of course, I'm only able to roast his moves because Stockfish is saying they're actually good moves, which pisses me off. And yeah, I really did not think much of a4. I really did not think much of his attack. I thought he should develop some pieces and get his king to safety. Played knight to h6, which might look strange to some of you, but I figured that the knight can come through f7, and either on f5 if he captures, or if there was a case I didn't want to play f captures, or I thought maybe the knight can cycle through d6 and this knight could come to c4. So I figured it was not a big deal. I figured this knight could come out later anyway, and I was not in a rush because my opponent is not developed, but apparently it is +1. Whatever, he plays h3 because why not develop another pawn? My opponent has developed 6 pawns and half a piece. I would not argue actually that this knight is developed. It's like halfway to being developed. He has developed 6 pawns though, 6 of 8. You can see that this game feels illogical to me at this point in time. I played knight to f7, again going for potential rerouting, but then after knight to g3, bishop to g6 and h4, I was actually slightly concerned about my beautiful bishop getting not trapped, but forced to trade for some kind of stinky knight or something. So I almost blundered in one move with h6, figuring that if h5, bishop h7, but here, of course, there is queen g4 check, picking up the bishop. So I did not play that because I did not want to lose on move 12. And instead, I actually played knight back to h6, which might look silly. But I figured if pushes now, I can just play bishop to f7. And my knight is still covering these squares because I had very minor concerns about the idea of bishop e2 and bishop coming to g4, and my knight is guarding that. So I thought maybe something like bishop a3. You see this? My queen is forced to move onto a light square. And I was just worried at some point in time that if my knight were not here, or I didn't have anything covering this, that maybe the bishop would make its way here and I would get my queen pinned to my king in a distant reality where I'm worse at chess. After knight back to h6, he gives up on pawn pushes and remembers how the knight moves. We have knight to a3 because why not? I put my knight on the edge, he can put his knight on the edge. And here, I don't actually know what Stockfish wants, but I thought that f5 seemed very natural. I thought f5 seemed very nice and very natural because the king is in the middle of the board. The king is just in the middle of the board. And I should be able to attack it. So f5. Of course, Stockfish laughs in my face and says, why would you play f5? You can just play knight to f5 and trade this knight for this knight, even though both knights are bad. And okay, knight to c2. Here, I spent a very little amount of time and I figured just f4. Why not f4? And of course, Stockfish says that I'm still marginally worse. Make it make sense to me. Like, I get that my dark squared bishop on f8 is not great. My knight on h6 is not the best piece. But, like, I don't see how I'm marginally worse. Did not feel like I was marginally worse. Felt like I was very, very comfortable. f4 is at least the best move now. The silly engine has managed to figure that out. And my opponent decides now, of all times, is a great time to develop a piece. Now, whilst his king is under attack, let's develop a piece. Bishop a3. Thank you, Stockfish, for the validation is a blunder. Why? Because my queen actually would very much like to be lined up with the enemy king. So queen e6. And okay, he can take the bishop, but I'm coming in to attack the king. So too little, too late. Lots of pawn pushes. And here I had calculated bishop takes f8, pawn takes g3. And I had looked very briefly. By very briefly, I mean we had both spent almost all of our time. By move 16, we both have 10 and 15 minutes left because we have no time management skills. I had looked at bishop takes g7 with the tempo on the rook, but I figured that I would be able to take on f2 or just to play queen here with a checkmate threat and picking back up the piece. So after deciding that I could play it, I played pawn takes g3. And my opponent decided to play bishop back. I thought bishop back was not good. I had not even considered it. I thought that allowing this looked very unpleasant. So my opponent does not take. If he takes, I thought I probably win this game very soon. I don't know if that's true. It's -3. But he played king to d2. I thought pretty happy. Now my pieces are looking a little bit better. I have this long-term passed pawn on f2. I don't think you could convince me that my opponent's opening worked out. I played rook e8. The reason for that was because I thought if we open up, I mean here there are some ideas if they play some silly move, if they play something bad, I don't know. I thought maybe I have bishop takes knight, queen takes, and then we will take eventually here on e3, or if takes, then there is probably mate. There's mate in 2. Figured that if some silly move happens, I have some kind of threat. But as you can see from the clock, neither of us have a ton of time. So my opponent played rook to h3. I didn't really think much of it. I guess he is defending e3. I played bishop here because if rook here trying to pick up the pawn, I will just play bishop to g4, pinning the rook to the queen. And so he has to move instead to g3. I'm very comfortable with my position. I'm very happy. Okay, it's -3 for black, but I don't have any checkmate, which was unhappy for me because I only had 3 minutes. But my opponent only had 3 minutes as well, and I figured that as nice as John Luca was, I figured I could probably beat him if it was a speed battle. So I played knight to d7, getting my silly knight from b8, because I figured the knight has very, very good chances going through f6 to e4, or even through b6 to c4. So both looked quite nice. And my opponent decided to grab the pawn on g7. And I had not considered this move because I had disregarded it as terrible. I don't know if you guys agree, but I thought it was very, very risky. And now I played knight to f6 because I didn't want to flag. And my opponent played king to c1. I think here, instead of knight to f6, I probably should have just traded immediately. And I was planning on trading immediately, but then I forgot that I was planning on trading immediately because I was so concerned about the clock situation. So instead I just brought the knight because I figured it couldn't be bad, and then I played e takes d4. And I figured that even after knight takes, I was very happy because of queen e3 check. And I think that this is very hard to play on increment. My opponent has to play this on increment because I have all sorts of nasty ideas with queen e1. I mean, potentially with queen here. Like it depends what he does. So yeah, I was very happy with this, but actually my opponent simply flagged in this position. And I think that it is very hard to know what to do. Like, what do you do? But apparently it was a mistake. It was a little bit anticlimactic because he flagged. And he didn't realize he flagged, and I kind of didn't realize until he had flagged, and then I kind of tapped the clock and I was like, he flagged. This was a 22 move game, but we used all of our time, and I felt like I had a great position. I think maybe there are a lot of people in chat not believing in my position, but practically speaking, like, which side of this would you rather play? Like, I don't think you could give me any amount of money to choose white. This was an interesting game of chess. I didn't really understand our post-game analysis together because he was kind of explaining the Trompowsky to me, but we didn't really play a Trompowsky, and I don't think he got anything with light squared weaknesses that he was talking about with me. And he seemed kind of disappointed when he asked me like how I felt about all of these pawns on like b5 and a4, and I told him I was not afraid. I mean, he said, "I'm glad you felt so confident." That's what he said. But like, I mean, like, it wasn't scary. He did not really put up much of an attack there. With more time, he survives this position, but playing this on increment, very nice for black. So I won this game, which takes me to 2.5 out of 5, which is 50%. Means that in round 6, I get a harder pairing. I played round 6 today, and I need to go and record that recap for you now. So you will be able to find out tomorrow what happened in the game if you haven't looked already on chess.com events or watched the stream. I hope you enjoyed this game. I did not really enjoy playing this opening because Stockfish laughed in my face for the entire time. Felt unnecessary. This is one of those games that makes me feel like I don't understand chess, but at least my opponent didn't understand chess either. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a comment. Let me know what you play against the Trompowsky because I am clearly looking for something that is not 2f6. And yeah, we'll see you in the next recap. Bye, guys.